Welcome to My Long Island TV. From Manhasset to Montauk, we have traveled our communities to bring you the following events. I'm your host, Waldo Cabrera. My Long Island TV starts now.
Hello, I'm John Owens, editor-in-chief of Anton Community Newspapers, a group of 18 newspapers that cover Nassau County. Our guest today is Bruce Blakeman, the Republican candidate to succeed Carolyn McCarthy in New York's 4th Congressional District. Now, many people know you as you were the U.S. Senate candidate for the Republicans in 2010 and presiding officer of the Nassau County Legislature in the late 90s. And now you're also a businessman, an attorney, an educator.
I was a bartender, a busboy, a dishwasher. I worked on the back of a garbage truck. All part of my resume.
And you're also the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey.
That's
you were
correct.
commissioner there.
Yes.
What a resume. Why should you be the newest member of Congress?
Well, first of all, I think it's about the issues. I'm very passionate about the issues here in the 4th Congressional District and also their national issues. Basically, we have an economy now where people can't find work, where people are being laid off, where people who have full-time work are now being offered part-time work. We need to turn the economy around, and we can only do that through the private sector. We need to expand the economy to create jobs by getting cheap energy, which we can do here in New York.
How?
Well, we have a 100-year supply of natural gas right on the southern tier in New York, and why we're not exploiting that, I can't tell you why. On one side of the border, where they're doing it in Pennsylvania, people are driving around in brand new Cadillac Escalades. On the other side of the border, they're driving around in 20-year-old pickup trucks. So we can exploit that gas, bring down the gas prices so that it's affordable. 5 years ago, gas was $1.80 a gallon. It's now over $4. So we need cheap energy. This country was built on cheap energy. We have to cut regulations. For every employee that a small business hires, it's estimated by the Small Business Administration that it costs that small business $10,000 in bureaucracy and paperwork just for that one employee. So we got to cut government regulation. Number 3, simplified tax code, less taxes. We got to cut the corporate tax, because if we don't do that, it's the highest tax in the world here in the United States. It's 39%. Overseas, there's trillions of dollars in American money that aren't coming here. We need that money back here to invest in people, technology, and equipment. If we just did those 3 things, we could turn the economy around and create jobs, because we got young people who are graduating from prestigious universities who can't find work. So we have a program where we can expand the economy, create jobs, and do it through the private sector, not through government.
All right, specifically here for Long Island, what would you do in the district? What would you see happening for the district in terms of, economic development and growing jobs?
Let me tell you a story. I was in Oceanside a few months ago. I'm shopping for a pair of sneakers. This young man's waiting on me, good-looking guy, articulate. I said to him, where are you going to school? He said, I graduated 2 years ago. I said, really, from where? He said, Duke University. I said, you graduated from Duke University and you're selling sneakers? He says, man, you don't know how tough it is to get a job out there. There's 100 applications for every job this kid went for. And he said, I'd make it past the first interview, the second interview. By the third interview, I was up against the best of the best, and somebody's got to lose. So if we expand the economy and businesses start to hire, then we will create opportunity here in the 4th Congressional District. It'll open up jobs in the 4th Congressional District and also in Manhattan, where a lot of residents of the 4th Congressional District work. So we also have to maintain ourselves as the financial capital of the world in New York City, because that affects the 4th Congressional District in material ways. And right now, with government overregulation and with our corporate tax policy here in America, those jobs are leaving for London and Dubai.
Well, now, the 4th Congressional District has been in Democrat hands for what, 17 years?
Yes.
What makes you think that voters are going to change?
Well, first of all, I think that many people had an attitude towards Carolyn McCarthy that she's a nice woman, she's a sympathetic figure, and she's not the type of person that would make people say, I got to vote against Carolyn McCarthy. She's a nice person. And we disagree on policy, but I respect her and I like her myself. But the situation is now in the 4th Congressional District, people are realizing how important it is to have a member of Congress that reflects their values. And the people that I talk to in the 4th Congressional District, they don't want Obamacare because it's killing jobs, it's raising the cost of health insurance, deductibles are going up, premiums are going up, co-pays are going up, and they're losing their choice of doctor.
What would you put in its place?
Well, first of all, the president said that we needed to fix the problem of the 30 million people that were uninsured or underinsured. Okay? There was a way to do that. We could have had an assigned risk program for pre-existing conditions, for people who had pre-existing conditions, just like we have in automobile policies for people who've been in a lot of accidents or have had a lot of speeding tickets. Have an assigned risk program, thereby, if you're in that category and you can afford it, you pay the higher premium. If you can't afford it, then government can come in and make up the difference, and we would solve the problem without dismantling the whole healthcare system. So there was a way to get that done.
Another big issue, of course, is Israel and Israel's security. Talk to us about that.
Well, I'm leaving for Israel this Sunday. I'm going to spend a week there. I'll be meeting with government officials. I'll be meeting with religious leaders. I have a jam-packed 6 days there of just seeing all the sites again. This will be my 3rd trip to Israel. I went 2 years ago. I'd like to say that I'm just going for political and business reasons, but actually I planned the trip a long time before that because my girlfriend's mother lives in Israel, so we plan to visit her on my girlfriend's birthday, which is next week. So I was going anyway, but I'm very passionate about Israel. I think the President and Secretary Kerry have been bullying Israel into a bad agreement with Hamas. I think they should leave Israel alone and let Israel decide their own fate without being bullied by the President and the Secretary of State. I believe it's in America's interest to have a strong Israel. And I believe it's in America's interest to make sure that Iran never gets nuclear weapons capability.
How do we do that? We've tried embargoes, and we don't know how that's working, but...
We haven't put an embargo on their finances yet and on their banks. If we did that, that would be a stranglehold on their economy and it would bring them to their knees. And even then, if they didn't do that, then I would recommend to the President that we take the military option and we take out their nuclear weapons capability program. Why? It's not just a threat to Israel. It's in our national interest to make sure that Iran never gets nuclear weapons because they are avowed enemies of the United States, and there is no question in my mind that they would take that radioactive material and give it to terrorist groups, and it would end up in a dirty bomb, in one of those suitcase bombs here in Times Square. So we cannot let a radical Islamic state get nuclear weapons capability, or it'll be fatal for the United States of America. Yes, it's important to Israel, but it's also important to us. So I would give Iran a certain period of time, and if they didn't stop their weapons program, their nuclear weapons program, we would have to take surgical airstrikes, military action against Iran to make sure they never get that capability.
Well, now you're talking very strong language there and taking, strong action. You have called Secretary of State John Kerry the Neville Chamberlain of the 21st century. Appeasement.
Well, if you look around the world, just spin the globe. Whether you're looking at Iraq with the emergence of an Islamic terrorist state that just beheaded a journalist, a new nation, so-called, that is grounded in murder and killing people, whether they be Christians or Jews or anybody that's different from them. You look at what Putin has been doing with Georgia and how he has now influenced all kinds of military activity. Putin just wants to expand the former Soviet empire and make it a Russian empire.
Right.
So we weren't tough with Putin. We made mistakes in Iraq. We allowed ISIS to get too powerful. The President and Secretary Kerry are leading from behind. They haven't taken leadership positions. President Obama has spent more time on the golf course than he has in the Situation Room with all these things going on. If you look at China, China is now expanding their influence in the South China Sea. And while this is all going on, aside from a lack of leadership, the president is now calling for cutting the military budget to troop levels that predate World War II. It's a mistake. We should be getting stronger, not weaker.
Let's bring it back home. What do you have as consolation for the people who live in the 4th Congressional District? This must be one of the highest taxed congressional districts there are, between county, village, town, state, federal. What kind of consolation can you give them?
Well, John, I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people think that the federal government can't do anything about property taxes. They can. It's called stopping the unfunded mandates on local government. And especially here in Nassau County, this is one of the few counties in the United States whereby on the county budget, they have to pay, the county taxpayers have to pay property taxpayers 25% of Medicaid costs, which is $270 million without any say on who gets Medicaid rather, what kind of Medicaid services are provided. The county can't even investigate fraud, but they're responsible for $270 million in Medicaid. So what I would do is I would enact a law. I will certainly introduce a law as a congressman to say to every state in the United States, you may not pass along Medicaid costs to county government because they have no control over it. So if we reduce that contribution that property taxpayers in Nassau County have to make to Medicaid, we could cut taxes across the board by 15%. So I will introduce that legislation.
Well, thank you very much. I'm John Owens, Editor-in-Chief of Anton Community Newspapers, and I'd like to thank our guest, Bruce Blakeman, for coming today.